When I think of Jesus standing before Pilate, I always find this image so powerful. We see the bloodied, beaten and bullied Jesus facing Pontius Pilate, the governor dressed in his uniform of power and position. You'd think at first sight that Pilate is the one in the powerful position and Jesus, who is in chains, as the vulnerable one. Although there's truth there, there's also another more profound truth. What we're seeing here is what I describe as the power of vulnerability meets the vulnerability of power. After reading the encounter between these two men, we may ask ourselves, who really holds the power? Pilate doesn't sentence Jesus to death because he believes Jesus isn't guilty. In fact, he pleads with the crowd to allow Jesus to be set free. He knows it was jealousy that brought him there. But Pilate was worried that a riot would take place and his position of power would become untenable. So he washes his hands and he says to the crowd, "Taking yourself and crucify him." He was vulnerable in his position of power. Jesus looks like the vulnerable one, but he holds a power standing in the truth of what he has taught and the life he offers to the world through the suffering he was about to undergo. He came that we may have life and have it to the full. We're living in difficult times and many of us will feel vulnerable and isolated. We may feel we're living in fear, which is understandable during these times as there's so much unknown. We give thanks to all our public services who are making themselves vulnerable to keep us safe. This is also a period that gives us the opportunity to reflect on what's important and for us to allow our faith to help us to dispel our fear. Someone once said, when we're in the dark, we are reminded of what really is important when we're in the light. As we go through Holy Week, may we journey with Christ through his suffering. May we go through the darkness of the Passion to the light of the resurrection. Night falls on Maundy Thursday, and we experience the light of the resurrection dawning on Easter Sunday. When we're feeling that we're in the dark and night has fallen, may we remember that there's hope. Not necessarily because of the rising of the sun, but more because the sun has risen.